Catherine and Ava, do you want to come up for a story this morning? How are you two? Are you good? Good. Now, before I start, I need to tell all of you that you have to pay really close attention, because this story is for you too, because it's half of the scripture reading and won't be read again. So you need to listen to this so that my sermon makes sense. Yes, we're back in the Holy Land again. We're going to be there for quite a few weeks because we're telling the stories out of the book called Mark in the New Testament. And of course, this is the land where Jesus lived and taught, and this is another of the stories of Jesus, follows after the one that we heard last week. And last week we were at the Sea of Galilee, and at the end of our story last week, Jesus gets in the boat and he goes across to the other side. But I'm not going to tell that story. Everyone else is going to hear that story in a little bit. But after he goes across, he comes back to this side again. And of course, when he comes back, because people know him so well now, as soon as he steps out of the boat, there's a big crowd. There's a big crowd waiting for him. They can hardly wait to see him again, and so they're all gathered there. He is taller than them. That's why we have imagination. And in that crowd, there was a man named Jairus. And Jairus was one of the leaders of the synagogue, or the church. And he was in the crowd also waiting for Jesus. And when Jesus finally came to the crowd, he went up to him and he knelt down. He knelt down before Jesus. And he said, my daughter who is only 12 years old is really, really sick, and we're afraid that she's going to die. Would you please come and help her? And he said, I've tried everything else. You're my kind of last hope. And I've heard that you heal people, and I'm hoping that you can do something. And Jesus right away said, I will do what I can, and just take me to her. And so they started down the road towards Jairus' house. And of course the crowds followed them. Hundreds of people. So there was this big, like a parade going down the road. And as they got a little bit down the road, this woman came out into the street. She saw Jesus. And this woman had been really, really sick for 12 years. 12 years she'd been sick. And she was very, very poor because she'd spent every penny that she had on medicines to try and get well, and nothing helped. And because she was sick, she wasn't allowed to live in the town because people weren't allowed to live if they were sick and couldn't be cured. So she had to live out in the hills on her own. So she was hungry, she had no money, and she was still very, very sick. But she had heard about Jesus and the fact that he was able to heal people. And so she came up through the crowd, and as he was walking with Jairus, she came right up behind him, and she thought, all I have to do is touch his garment, his robe, and I'll be well. And so she touched his garment, and right away she felt better. And Jesus had felt someone touch him, and he turned and he said, "Who touched me?" And it was silent for a while, and then finally the woman came and fell on her knees before him. And she said, she was so afraid, she said, "I'm sorry, teacher, but I had to do that because I've been so sick, and I just believed that you could make me well, and I'm feeling way better." And he lifted her up. He lifted her up and he said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed." And so, just as that happened, someone came from Jairus' house to say, "It's too late. You don't have to come because your daughter has died." And Jairus was really, really upset. And Jesus said to him, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just believe." And so they went to the house. If you can give me just a little bit of space there, I'll put the house. And there was his daughter. And Jesus said, "She's not dead, she's just sleeping." And he went into her room, and he took her by the hand, and he lifted her up, and he said, "Little girl, get up." And she got up and started walking around. And everybody was amazed. I wonder how it would feel to be so sick. I wonder how it would feel.
Awful.
Awful? Yeah. I wonder how it would feel to suddenly not be sick anymore. Time for ice cream. I wonder what the woman who had been sick and the little girl who had been sick, I wonder what they did next.
I think they went in and tried to find some friends. They were really joyful and just were running around.
Yeah.
They were very
Yeah. I hope that they would find some friends. That would be really important. Well, that's our story this morning. And we're going to sing, this is Great Sorrow, right?
That's right.
Yeah. We're going to sing a new song, but fairly easy to sing. You'll find it at number 132 in More Voices if you want music. And we chose it because it's a perfect fit. It's Great Sorrow, Prodded Jairus. And we're going to sing that, and then you can head off to Children's Church.